consequences. Furious, she accuses him of trying to rape her. Joseph is thrown into jail. But just when his life could sink no further, it takes another dramatic twist. In jail, a former royal servant asks Joseph if he can interpret a strange dream about pressing 3 bunches of grapes into Pharaoh's cup. Joseph predicts the servant will be freed in 3 days. His interpretation proves true. The news reaches Pharaoh, who orders Joseph to be freed in order to have his own dreams interpreted. There is no way of checking whether Joseph was released from jail or even thrown into jail in the first place. Indeed, some biblical scholars suspect the whole episode is making a religious point.
If one looks at the way that the Joseph story operates, what one has is a series of deliverances of Joseph himself from captivity, and he is delivered from imprisonment. We're told quite explicitly in the narrative, because he has the favor of God.
But that's not to say that Joseph wasn't a gifted interpreter of dreams, and that somehow he came to the attention of Pharaoh. Artifacts found in ancient Egyptian tombs do in fact suggest that the Egyptians took dreams, specifically nightmares, seriously. Kasia Szpakowska is an Egyptologist who has studied the significance of sleep and dreams in ancient Egypt.
Well, one of these objects, this one, is the top of a headrest. Today we have fluffy pillows that we use to sleep on, but in Egypt, a hot climate with lots of little bugs that walk around on the ground, you want to raise your head up higher. And this is the portion that your head would actually be on. Some of them have on either the underside here that supports the head, or on the pillar itself, or on top of the base. They have figurines, carved in figures of various types of creatures holding knives, spears, snakes even, that would be used to magically repel things like nightmares that might come and attack you during the night when you're at your most vulnerable.
Clearly, dreams were of interest in ancient Egyptian culture, but the biblical record is quite specific. A Hebrew interpreted the dreams of an Egyptian pharaoh in about the 17th century BC. And this presents a problem.
For the first 2,000 years of Egypt's history, we really don't have any evidence for dream interpretation. It's not until about the 1300 BC, roughly, that we have the first book of dreams and their possible interpretations. But we're not even sure if it was used.
However, there are clues that Joseph may have learned about interpreting dreams from his family. Joseph was from Canaan, modern-day Syria. All his ancestors came from Mesopotamia, just to the north. Dream interpretation was part of ancient Mesopotamian culture. It's found in the story of a leader called Gudea.
In at least about 2400 BC, we have stories of Gudea, which describe him having a dream and him needing to have this dream interpreted by a third party. When it's described, it's not described as something unusual as Gudea having to go to a foreigner or go to a foreign land, so it's considered as part of that culture.
The Bible says that Pharaoh asks Joseph to interpret a dream in which 7 fat cows come out of the Nile, followed by 7 thin cows. Joseph says the dream means 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. In the Bible account, the prediction comes true. And on the strength of it, Joseph is made Prime Minister of Egypt. It almost sounds too convenient. A dream that accurately predicts a major crisis. But psychologists believe there's an authentic ring to parts of the story.
This has to be far around your head goes. This one.
Mark Blagrove is testing the theory that dreams are more than just random images or even an activity that processes memories.
And that one goes.
His research strongly suggests that people dream mostly what they are worried about.
Are there any people?
Student Katie Jones has volunteered to have her dreams analysed.
Work's a concern.
Earlier, she revealed that her biggest worry is the stress of her new part-time job in a hardware store.
No.
These worries are hardly on the scale of those of a pharaoh, but if Mark Blagrove's theory is right, then even Katie's dreams should mirror her concerns, however trivial.
We could say that, you know, humans back then are going to have a similar relationship to their dreams as we have now.
And those are your brain waves just there, which are very awake brain waves because they're very bitty. So over the night, that will get smaller when you're in non-REM sleep, and when you go into REM sleep, it'll disappear. And
Dreaming is identified by a type of sleep called REM, short for rapid eye movement. The sensors on Katie's head are linked to a computer that will tell researchers when she starts having REM sleep. Asking Katie the morning after what she dreamt about would only reveal a fraction of her dreams. Most of us forget 80% of them. So Katie will have to be woken up at 90-minute intervals when she falls into deep sleep.
Right. She's been like this for a few minutes now. She's got these sorts of waves, which are called sawtooth waves. And that usually happens when you're going into REM.
These brainwaves indicated it was time to ask her about her dream.
Hi, Katie. Was anything going through your mind at that moment?
I was in work and I was stacking shelves.
Ah, right, and what was stacking shelves,
Yeah,
right.
but they were really like strange things I was stacking. So I was sort of like, it was just really weird things like green and red caps and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was making them into shapes and stuff.
On each occasion she was woken up, her dreams were
It's like
recorded.
a big bunch of us were all going
As the night progressed, a clear pattern emerged.
out. Another dream.
Time and again, Katie's dreams related to her part-time job.
She was dreaming repeatedly about being at work, either getting a different job at a newsagent's or arguing with a customer and the customer reporting her for it. So the interesting thing about the night is that we seem to have more dreams when we're under stress, but the content seems to be related to the things that are concerning us.
Mark Blagrove's findings are in line with studies that show the powerful effects of stress on the dreaming mind.
There's even experiments being done on depriving people of water for half the day so that they go to bed thirsty, and finding that they're then more likely to dream about drinking.
The Bible says, of course, that Pharaoh was dreaming of weightier issues, a famine to be precise. Remarkably, there are signs that the threat of famine would have plagued the mind of Pharaoh in Joseph's time. Fekri Hassan is an Egyptologist who's researched why the civilization that created the pyramids some 500 years before Joseph was born was wiped out within decades. He concludes that it was famine, and his evidence lies in a little-known tomb in southern Egypt.
The tomb of Ankh-Tifi, who was a governor of a district in Upper Egypt, is a very, very significant tomb because it contains this unique record of the famine. The writing is on the wall, literally. The character is there, and he speaks in a very concise, clear manner on a series of events, low floods, about famines, about people leaving their homes and fleeing in every which direction.
Famine was a constant threat to the ancient world, but this event eclipsed all others. Its effects were so extreme that it led people to commit unthinkable acts.
All of Upper Egypt was dying of hunger to such a degree that everyone had come to eating their children.
It brought not just mass starvation, but total collapse of the social order.
We have evidence that they attacked the pyramids and they attacked the tombs. We have evidence that they attacked temples, they attacked royal institutions, they attacked the mansions of the nobles. We have evidence that the ladies who were very highly esteemed by the noblemen went to the streets in search of food. A total reversal in the social order, because the poor then were able to gain wealth by looting, while the wealthy were reduced to poverty.
The ruling pharaoh would have been blamed for the disaster, spelling the end of his reign and his dynasty. Any future king, even centuries later, would have famine on his mind and in his nightmares.
If your major concern in life is whether or not there's going to be a famine and whether or not there's going to be enough food around, then we can quite easily imagine that people are going to be dreaming of that type of thing, and either dreaming of it literally or dreaming of it in some metaphorical way.
With the trauma of past famines weighing on the minds of Pharaoh and probably all Egyptians, perhaps Joseph's interpretation is not so surprising. What is surprising is the Bible's claim that on the strength of this gift, Pharaoh promotes Joseph to Prime Minister of Egypt. Of all the twists and turns in the story, this seems the least likely. And yet, archaeological finds are consistent with the Bible's claim. One of these finds is in a New Kingdom tomb in Amarna, Middle Egypt. When the Bible describes Joseph's promotion, it gives away some telling details. As a sign of authority, Pharaoh gave Joseph his signet ring and placed a gold chain around his neck. According to Barry Gitlin, these details can be checked against evidence of pharaonic protocol. The owner of this tomb was a man called Ai, who lived in 1450 BC, 200 years after Joseph. Ancient documents tell us a pharaoh promoted him into high office, and wall paintings inside describe his investiture.
What we have in front of us is Akhenaten and his queen Nefertiti, according to some, looking out of a window from their couch or bed. And it allows us to look in on part of the activity of an Egyptian king as he bestows something upon the character of Ai in front of the pharaoh, in front of King Akhenaten.
And it's the detail of what exactly the king and queen are bestowing that strikes a chord with the Joseph story.
This is very similar to what happens in the book of Genesis, where you have the character of Joseph being raised to a high office by the king of Egypt. And as part of that investiture of high office, the king gives to him some sort of gold chain, fancy garments, and his insignia, his signet ring. So here we have some evidence that whoever wrote the story must have had some first-hand knowledge of royal practice within the Egyptian government.
The details of Joseph's investiture might add up, but no mention has ever been found of a prime minister with his name. Indeed, the whole idea of a foreigner reaching the top of Egyptian society sounds far-fetched. But there is in fact a substantial body of archaeology that shows that Canaanites, like Joseph, did achieve high office in Egypt.
There was no problem in people from Syria, Palestine, or indeed anywhere else outside Egypt becoming extremely successful and reaching very high rank, provided they were prepared as Joseph is